Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Corey Vanderplu at Corey Photo on Twitter and Instagram. Today I'm going to teach you the art of the portrait. And before you wonder, who is this guy? Why am I going to listen to him? Why am I going to sit here for 15-20 minutes and listen to a random dude speak? And before I get into the magazines I've been in, the films I've made, all the awards I've won, I want you guys to understand that that is not the purpose of this video. The video is to pass down the knowledge that I've learned in my entire career and share it with you guys. And today I'm going to talk about the 3 things that you need to take a great portrait. But before I jump into that, I want to talk a brief history of who I am and how I got here. So I was privileged enough to work with 2 very high-level photographers in my career. Even though they are wildly different in terms of their approach, the gear they use, wildly different. And the one thing that they had in common was taking the knowledge they've learned throughout their entire career and passing it down to the younger generation. And that's all I plan to do today. So the first photographer I worked for, his name was Steve CARTY. He's a great photographer in Toronto, shot a lot of hip hop. And when I started working for him, he really taught me the foundation on how to build a photography career, how to use gear, what website to use, the difference between a good photo and a bad photo. Really the technical side of how to be a great photographer. And that stuff is wildly important. But what I'm going to be talking about today is just taking that step a little bit further. And that's what I learned from my second mentor, and his name was PLATON. And what PLATON told me that the technical side is not as important. What's really important is human connection and the bridge building. How can you create an intense connection with someone in such a finite amount of time? But if you don't have that confidence and that connection with the human being, then your photo shoots are only going to be a technical exercise. And for the importance of this little lecture, I want you to imagine that you're going to be shooting a stranger. You're going to be shooting someone that you don't know. Because if you can learn these simple foundations and these simple tricks, by the time you start shooting a friend or a family member, you're going to be miles ahead of everyone else. 3 simple things for making a great portrait are light, simplicity, and human connection. We'll start with the 2 simplest ones and the 2 least important, which is light and simplicity. Light is so literal that once you understand it, you'll be able to really master it. Start with one source. I'm only lit here with a window and a simple V-flat. It's simple and very easy to do. How I started shooting natural light was I shared a studio space with a lot of different photographers and everyone had their own gear, but I didn't have my own strobe light. I saw Steve shoot someone for a gig and he just used a natural light. It was beautiful, simple, and then that's how I started getting into it. I realized you don't need lights. Granted, most of it was because I had very little money, but I could still take great pictures on the same level of even the highest photographers with just using a simple window. Learning how to bounce it, reflect it, take it away, add more of it. Very, very simple stuff. And if you can't learn how to shoot a good portrait with just one light, then why are you using 2 or 3? Why are you overcomplicating it? Why are you making it more complex than it has to be? Start simple, start easy. As soon as you start taking great portraits with one light, then you can add another light, then you can add another concept. But the key is to start simple. Simplicity is really where it's at. There's a reason why someone like a Platon figure will always start on a white seamless. It takes away all of the crutches, all of the distractions. You could be on a Vogue set with Annie Leibovitz with a big dress, a fancy pose, an 18K, all the fog. It's very easy for your brain to latch onto. But if you just have something on a simple white backdrop, no gimmicks, no tricks, no crutches, it's just you and the sitter, it forces you to shoot that human being, not their brand, not the mask that they're putting on, but them. And once you can understand how to make that connection with someone in a very small, finite window, that is where the greatness comes. If you can figure out how to make that connection and make a great portrait on just a simple white background, just the lens, the face, the lens, the human being, the lens, the spirit of the person, then once you start working into posing and adding different tricks and adding different elements, that is where it starts to get creative and fun. But you have to start simple and you have to start with the basics. And the basics are just a simple camera, simple lens, simple backdrop. The best photographs in the world are the simplest. Something that draws your eye right to the windows of the soul. Something that draws your eyes right to that human being. If you make that connection through the camera, that connection is going to be made every time that person looks at the photograph. We've all been there when you put a camera up in front of someone and they just kind of freeze. What do I do with my hands? Where do I look? What do I do with my body? If you can understand how to control that, how to make that your own, how to control the sitter, how to put their mind at ease, how to give them confidence, how to make them feel proud, then that is where the great portraiture comes from. Again, I know I just talked about light and simplicity, but the most important thing you can do in a photo is build that human connection. Make someone feel comfortable with the lens pointed right at them. And you can't do that if you're fumbling with your camera, fumbling with your aperture, fumbling with lights, fumbling with your assistant. All of that has to be second nature. The delicate energy that someone has, it's so delicate. It can be broken and destroyed very simply. You have to think of it as like a first date or a job interview. That energy when you first walk into the room, you can look at them weird, you can say something off color, that is gonna ruin the energy. And when you're shooting a portrait, it's the exact same thing. How do you get that person to be on your side? How do you gain that trust? And there isn't a video long enough on this planet or enough time in the world for me to explain to you how to build that human connection. If you do what I do, it'll be a gimmick. If I do what PLATON does or what CARTY does, it'll be a gimmick. It has to be authentic. It has to come from you. How do you figure out what our common grounds are? Where is the bridge between you and me? Where is the commonality? How can I make this person feel trustworthy? How can I make them feel comfortable with the camera pointed at them? If you can figure that out, then you will be a great portrait photographer. But how can you do that? The only way you can do it is by practice and repetition, talking to new people, learning how to get to the core, learning how to not talk about the weather and the surface stuff. And the most simple way I do it is just to have a simple 10-minute conversation at the beginning of the photo shoot. PLATON famously will shoot someone for 35 minutes, but talk to them for 20. Half the photo shoot is taken by getting to know them and making that person feel comfortable. Because if they feel awkward and weird, you could shoot them for 2 hours and you'll never get a great photo. But if you spend that time building the connection, working with them, making them feel at ease, that is when it gets good. Again, light, simplicity, human connection. The first two are important. The human connection is the most important. And if you take one thing from this video, it's learning how to build that connection. The light and the simplicity, you should already have that mastered. You should already have the technical side mastered. What you really want to focus on is how you can build that bridge between you and your sitter. And once you get there, you'll realize it's something that never can truly get mastered, and it's something that never gets old. So with that, happy shooting.